Welcome to the Theology of the Buddy, a podcast for Catholics who love the beauty of the Church's sacred tradition. This is episode 68. My name is Chris, and I'm joined by my everlasting co-host, Mike. And we're joined by a wonderful special guest who I'll introduce in a moment. So, if you are somebody who is looking to grow in their faith in new ways, looking to connect with other faithful Catholics who are committed to helping you grow closer to our blessed Lord, or simply looking for other Catholic voices who are willing to speak the truth while having a little fun in the process, you've come to the right place. We're not experts, but we've learned a lot collectively over the 15 plus years that we've been friends in the faith, and we want to share that with you. So if you aren't yet, make sure that you hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to ensure you get the best Catholic candid conversations delivered to you every week. While you're at it, don't forget to follow us on social media so you can keep up to date with all of the great content we are sending out. Again, you can find all of our episodes and show notes at theologyofthebuddy.com. So, today on our podcast, the Sons of Thunder are joined by the illustrious and far more knowledgeable guest.
And far more handsome.
True. Nicholas Jobe of Our Lady's Armory. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
And so on the podcast today, we are getting into a bit of a spicy conversation. We're discussing the traditional approach to celebrating Advent, but specifically we want to tackle those big Catholic questions right now that are floating around the internet. Like, is it a sin to put up your Christmas tree before Christmas and things like that? So
is Advent really penitential?
Yeah. So let's get into it. So recently, I don't know if it was in our VIB group or whatnot, but Brooke had shared an article, which I'll share in the show notes, which it's called Advent Guilt. Should you hold on or let go? And in the article, she talks about how Advent is not a penitential season and gets into the importance that she gets into the reasons why she believes that Catholics should have no problems in setting up the tree and decorating for Christmas and whatnot.
And singing their Christmas songs as soon as Thanksgiving's over, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of juxtaposed against a bunch of kind of trad content that's come out recently and basically comes out every year about how basically the opposite. Don't listen to any Christmas hymns until, Christmas Day, until you've gone to Mass, and, Christmas tree has got to be on Christmas Eve. It's got to come down on Candlemas. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what is a good Catholic to think looking at the internet these days? Maybe Nicholas Jobe can help us.
There's so much out there. If somebody's new to the faith and they get on Google or Facebook or whatever, I fear for them, and I wonder, what are they going to find and where are they going to turn, and are they going to go deeper in their faith in an authentic way, or are they going to end up not even realizing that they've been led astray by those dark corners of the internet that say that Christmas trees are totally fine the day after Thanksgiving, for example. I'm kidding about that part, of course, but the point stands. It's so hard to know the right direction to go. And I think a lot of what we're going to talk about is probably within the realm of prudential judgment. I think that there's certainly some teaching of the church that is authoritative on the things that we'll talk about, but I think a lot of it is is more about personal devotion. So I want to make that part clear up front. And I hope that somebody listening to this, especially somebody who might be new to the faith, doesn't approach this conversation as if it's the authoritative resource. Just the same as I would hope that they would not approach that article from that perspective either. So having not read the article, though, I feel like I'm not prepared for the episode, although I'll have to go look at that later. I think that there's a middle road probably, and it's up to each family to discern how are they called to celebrate these seasons within their own domestic church.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, for better or worse, we're not really under any church law to do any sort of Advent devotions, right? Or, we're not bound to do them at all, much less at a certain time. So it is within the realm of private devotion. So I think with that said, you can probably close the case on, is it always a sin to put up your tree early? I would say no. It's in the realm of, if you're putting it up with a spirit in your heart of I don't care about the faith, I just want to celebrate atheist Christmas, maybe that's a sin, but objectively it's not.
I think they're, especially right now in trad circles, but I think also outside of that too, there's this desire for a lot of families to kind of do this whole liturgical living thing. Like you read that book, Theology of Home, or
Catholic all year.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there is some really good merit there, for sure. But I think trads, myself included, can tend to be a little bit neurotic when it comes to things like this, and it becomes hard line. No way, I'm very good at shaming Brooke for putting up her Christmas tree early and doing things like that. But, I think I think there's a trap there a little bit, you know what I mean? Which, I don't know. But is there a fine balance there too? Should we, and how should we encourage Catholic families and other Catholics to really enter into the spirit of Advent? Is it an all or nothing thing, or is it something that you kind of do piecemeal? Maybe we, set up the creche, but we don't put a baby Jesus in yet, or we, do things like that. I don't know. How would you approach that, Nick?
I would say, in my own family, restoring the timeline of liturgical observances to its proper order helped me to appreciate them more. So, growing up, we did what most, typical American Catholic families would do. We'd put on Christmas music after Thanksgiving and decorate the house and put the tree up and all this stuff. And by the time Christmas rolled around, I was so sick of Christmas music. I wanted nothing to do with it. And then we'd go to mass for weeks afterwards and they would say, it's still Christmas. It's still Christmas. And I'm like, no, it's not. Christmas is over. And as I got older and realized, well, the Christmas season actually does last, quite a bit longer than just Christmas Day. It's a season. It's not a day. So, in my own household, trying to restore the Advent practices and not get into celebrating Christmas until Christmas itself. We're still listening to Christmas music into the beginning of February. And, really feeling like we're living that out joyfully and celebrating it, even while the rest of the world has moved on to New Year's resolutions and how terrible January is. And, it's just dark and cold outside, but we're still at home drinking hot cocoa and saying Happy Christmas every day. So, restoring that timeline helped me to appreciate the holy day, the holidays, and the holy days that much more.
That's a good point about January, right? Because for a lot of people, January into February is the most depressing, kind of pointless part of the year where there's not much to look forward to. Brooke definitely expresses this a lot, right? Like it's like the worst time of year for depressed people, right? And she like especially looks forward to gift giving so much. And then there's like an emotional crash after Christmas. That's something where like I've always thought, or at least since I found out about this kind of stuff, I've thought maybe that isn't how it's meant to be, right? Like you should be celebrating Christmas at that time, but we're so used to celebrating Christmas like all through December. I wanted to ask you something. This may be a little random, but extended family get-togethers. Do you have family members that are often like, why don't we have Christmas dinner on the 23rd or the 24th, stuff like that? Is that a thing for your family? Because it often is with mine.
Yeah, I don't think I've experienced that much in my own family. Nothing really comes to mind in particular. I'm the second of 6 in my family, and my older sister's married and has kids. The next sibling after me is engaged. And so, we've reached the point with my parents' kids where everybody is starting to have their own, nuclear family celebrations for Christmas. And so for my parents, getting everybody back together again, they've become the extended family. And so they kind of work with us and just try to fit into whatever schedule works best for all of our nuclear families, which is nice. I don't remember any turmoil over, whether we celebrate Christmas on the 23rd or the 28th, for example.
Yeah. I'm always trying to gently push to have these extended family dinners after Christmas Day. But my parents and the in-laws are generally don't care whether it's before or after, as long as it's close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. When my dad's family, they would oftentimes do it before Christmas. And yeah, as a child, I don't think I really cared too much, but as I grew older, that was certainly it was weird. And, and even then at that point, I didn't necessarily have a sense of the penitential nature of Christmas, of Advent. And yet I knew, Advent was kind of a sacred preparation time that you just don't really mess with, and generally speaking, my dad's side of the family are all atheists. So, it explains why they just didn't care. But for me, it was certainly it felt weird to participate in that.
Yeah. Do you guys want to switch gears and address, is Advent penitential?
I believe very strongly that it is. However, I will make the caveat that in the Novus Ordo world, that I don't think that it's easy to make that case. I think there's still red flags, or maybe purple flags, that point to that. But yeah, I don't think it's as easy to see it in the Novus Ordo world as it is in the traditional Catholic side.
I think I'd even go so far as to say that in most recent canon law and in Novus Ordo land, it's technically not penitential. But if I can maybe reference last week's podcast, saying Advent isn't penitential might be kind of like saying the offertory doesn't talk about sacrifice. It's a statement that's only true in the Novus Ordo. It's not true in any other rite. It's not true at any other point in church history. And we live in an aberration where it's almost kind of an abuse that Advent's not penitential, in the same sense that the offertory doesn't talk about sacrifice anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thinking on it anyway.
I'm going to say, according to my personal magisterium, the Advent is penitential. And I have spoken from my chair. I'm sitting in a chair right now, so I've spoken from my chair, and it's authoritative.
Call that the book of Job when he speaks of.
I actually did have a priest tell me once that it's a different penitential character from Lent, and that the vestments for Lent are supposed to be a red-hued purple, and the vestments for Advent are supposed to be a blue-hued purple. And when he got to that point, I was like, "You're throwing me a line of malarkey." I don't believe that for a second. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Triggered.
But if somebody's not looking at the rubrics or at the canons or anything like that, what are they looking at? If they're going to Mass, they're hopefully noticing the vestments, and that should be your number one clue. Hey, it's purple. What other season do we wear purple? Lent, and that's penitential season. Now, if you want to say it's of a different penitential character than Lent, okay, we can talk about that. I don't exactly know what he meant by that. But anyway, it's penitential. I don't think that there's any, can you hear my toddler screaming in the background?
Yes.
I don't think that there's any way around that, regardless of whatever the current practice is in one particular rite. Everywhere else in our history, everywhere else in any other rite, it's penitential. So, yeah, that's what I'm saying, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. I don't really know, because it's been a number of years really since I've been at a Novus Ordo parish. But I mean, even in the traditional Latin Mass, the weeks preceding up to Christmas are like the four last things, right? So, I mean, pretty grim stuff. I mean, like, obviously heaven's not grim, but I mean, everything else is kind of it's a somber kind of moment for us to kind of reflect and prepare for that coming of Christ. I don't know if the Novus Ordo Advent readings follow that or not.
The first time I was at, or the first time I really remember attending a TLM regularly, was at an FSSP parish. And I remember going for the Sundays of Advent that year. And I remember that Christmas was on a Tuesday, because the pastor said that he was going to talk about the four last things as his Advent sermons. And he said, "Yes, that's right. I'm going to be talking about hell 2 days before Christmas, and you're going to enjoy it."
That's great.
Yeah.
I love that priest. I don't know who he is, but I love him.
I'll just say he has mixed reviews. I loved his preaching, though. He was very good at his preaching.
Yeah. But so I mean, in every other case, like in every other rite, Advent is treated as it has always traditionally been, which has been that penitential time of anticipation of Christ's incarnation, right?
Do you remember when our friend Billy made the video about Advent being penitential? And he kind of went through the whole history of Advent back from like I think the 6th century.
Yeah.
And like he found it going back that far. It seemed like it's not actually as ancient as Lent, but somewhere in the at least by the 6th century, they had adopted a bunch of the Lenten practices into 40 days before Christmas.
Right. Martinmas, right?
Yeah, from Martinmas to Christmas, which was just this past week.
Mm-hmm.
And I never knew that that was the trad beginning of Lent until this year.
Yeah.
This is like how weird it is to be a cradle Catholic in Novus Ordo land, that like even little basic things like this you find out when you're 33 years old. Like,
yeah,
it's bizarre.
Yeah. I mean, Julie and I were talking about this as well, how, Martinmas and leading up to, the 4 weeks of Advent, like how we kind of look at it kind of like Septuagesima in a way, leading up to Lent, being like, this is kind of the warning shot, like, get ready, start preparing yourself for the real penitential time, start looking into those questions of, what do you plan to sacrifice this Advent? So, yeah.
I pulled up the Mass readings. I'm looking at the USCCB website right now. The gospel for the first Sunday of Advent is Mark 13, where Jesus is telling the disciples, be watchful, be alert. You do not know when the time will come. The second Sunday of Advent is the beginning of the Gospel of Mark, coming from Isaiah the prophet. And then third Sunday is Gospel of John regarding John the Baptist. Fourth Sunday of Advent is the Annunciation from Gospel of Luke.
So that the eschatological character of Advent is kind of lost in the Novus Ordo a bit.
Is that the same every year, Nick? Or is that like does it change with the 3-year cycle?
Oh, good question. So this one is for 2020. I'm not seeing any reference on this particular page to whether that changes. Let me forward up to next year. My daughter's listening to the Tangled soundtrack right now, so hopefully that's not coming through. Oh gosh!
What liturgical season are you supposed to listen to the Tangled soundtrack?
I don't even know.
Probably penitential ones, I would think.
Yeah. It's very penitential at this point. She listens to it every day.
My daughter had the same phase.
Really?
Like, yeah.
Third Sunday of Advent for next year is John the Baptist. Whoever has 2 cloaks should share with the person who has none, and so on. Fourth Sunday of Advent next year is the Visitation. Yeah.
Optionitis again. Optionitis strikes again.
But guys, we're hearing more different scriptures at Mass.
Yeah. Do you have an opinion on that? I know that's totally tangential, Nick, but like, do you think that having the same readings every Sunday and on every holy day,
same readings every year?
Yeah. Like just 365 different readings. Like, do you think that's a good thing?
I feel like my non-answer is an answer in itself. Because isn't it like, it's been a while since I've actually looked at how the pattern works out, but there's like an A, B, and C for the gospel, but isn't there an A and a B for the rest of the readings or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
So you end up really with like 6 different rotations of readings. So you could go to Mass 6 years in a row and not have the exact same readings from first Sunday of Advent to the following first Sunday of Advent. No, I think that especially for those people who are kind of on the fence, or those people who are coming into the church, those people who just aren't familiar with the liturgical calendar, the different liturgical seasons. I understand that there's a theme that is sought after with the readings and how the readings are structured, but I really don't think it's that involved that they've figured out first reading year A and gospel year C, and it's too many moving parts. I think that we're better served by having that consistency of having the same readings for each day of the year and not jumping all over the place. So
yeah,
that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, we're definitely on board with that. I think it's pretty clear that for actually teaching and for trying to follow and learn as someone in the pews, you really want to have the same readings on the same Sunday year after year. Because, as an average layperson, you're not a scholar who is absorbing every parallel between 6 sets of different readings on the same day.
Yeah.
It's enough to try to appreciate one set of readings per Sunday. And I do think that they have a stronger
character.
Yeah, a stronger relation and a stronger message that's preached by all the scripture in a mass together. Anyway, I think we all pretty much agree on that.
Mm-hmm. I think, we are, for better or for worse, we are very much creatures of habit, and, we work in 365-day cycles,
Mm-hmm.
That's just how we work. We celebrate New Year's every year on the same day, and I think there's something to be said of that kind of, I don't know what the word is, but that memory of this day every year is this day,
Yeah, it's more human, right?
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to have the church as an anchor point,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Human life flows through the seasons, and the liturgical seasons kind of mirror that, right? It's natural, and it's easy for anyone to understand, even if they're not a scholar who's studying all the readings, right?
Imagine if we had rotating calendars for the feast days, we only celebrate Christmas on year C. How messed up would that be? And I understand it's all scripture, right? So we're still getting scripture regardless of what year in the cycle we're on. But at the same time, yeah, it's nice to have that anchor point and be able to think about the same verse is going to be coming up at Mass today as came up last time we had this feast.
And it gives you the ability to be it's Christ the King this Sunday. I love the readings for this Sunday. Can't really say that in the Novus Ordo because it could be one of 3 different readings, and you probably don't remember exactly which one it's going to be unless you've intentionally studied ahead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I know that the argument is something about more exposure to scripture, right? But for the most part, I think that the Sunday readings, with some exceptions, are the same as they were before, right? Okay, we added in a second reading. In the old form, we have the lesson and the gospel. Now we have the first reading, the second reading, and the gospel. All right, fine. I'm in favor of that change. But the cyclical thing that supposedly we get more scripture, I think that that's really only true if you're going to daily Mass, right? That seems to be where a lot of the more scripture sort of changes were happening. But don't quote me on that. I might be completely wrong. So just cut this part out.
In fact, we're just going to cut out all Nick's parts. He's so wrong.
Yeah. So I guess maybe switching gears a little bit, anecdotally. Okay. So back probably a number of years ago, my wife was having a really hard time. And I told her, you know what, babe, you should go to the salon, get your hair done, just get out of the house and make yourself feel pretty. And I can remember her going away. She was kind of in a depressed mood. She came back and it had changed her entire outlook for like the month. It was a drastic change. And the question of should we decorate, should we not decorate? I was a little bit more hardlined, and I was like, you know what? We should really push into this penitential character of Advent. And you know what? Maybe don't even put up your tree until Gaudete Sunday. And don't put up any Christmas decorations. Don't do anything, just kind of push in. But I think recently I've kind of turned, especially when I consider this past year and the impact that this year has had on a lot of people's mental health, and seeing that for some people, decorating their homes can be like sending my wife off to the salon. It can be something that can really change the mood and the atmosphere. And I know Mike and I were talking with Brooke this past week about this whole thing, and kind of that battle of like how far is too far and how much is too much. And like what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Do you want to go first, Nick, or me?
You go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, it's that's kind of been a struggle for my family because Brooke is usually hit really hard by the season. So it's like decorating is a huge uplifting kind of thing. Oh, so we've never really gone all out on holding back Christmas decorations, but we have tried to do it to some extent. And the main thing we've been trying to get better at is separating the Christmas stuff from the Advent stuff, and that stuff from the winter stuff. So you can kind of go from like, okay, we have autumn type decorations in the house. We take those down, we put up winter stuff, but not necessarily Christmas stuff. And
non-denominational winter holidays.
And put up stuff like, wreaths and like poinsettias and that kind of stuff that's like wintry, that makes your house feel cozy and homey and stuff like that, makes you happy. But that stuff, you can hold back the more explicit Christmas stuff for Christmas, right? I think that's a good step, especially for people like us who've gone their whole lives, putting up the tree as soon as, as soon as Halloween's over, really.
Yeah.
I mean, the Americans have to wait for Thanksgiving, but we have Canadian Thanksgiving earlier. So for us, as soon as Halloween's over, it's like everywhere's Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do something kind of similar. We kind of stagger it throughout Advent. So my toddler wants to sit on my lap. Let me pick her up. Come here.
She's so cute.
Thank you. Do you want to say hi? Can you say hi to the microphone? No. She's being shy again. My wife's birthday is on the Solemnity of the Immaculate Conception. So I take the day off work and we go out and celebrate her, and for her birthday we celebrate the Holy Day, and then we go to the tree farm and cut down our tree on that feast day. Honey, we can't push the buttons on the microphone right now, okay? She's like, what does this button do? What is this? This is going to mute me, and this is going to turn up the volume so it hurts my ears. All right. Can we leave it alone? Good. So we get our tree on Immaculate Conception, and then it stays outside for a couple weeks, and then I bring it in on Gaudete Sunday, and then we decorate it on Christmas Eve, and we keep it up in the house until Candlemas, and then I take it outside and I burn it in a big bonfire for our Candlemas celebration.
I love that.
So it's good to remember that Advent is a season of preparation, right? So if it's a season of preparation, it kind of stands to reason that you can do things to prepare for Christmas. It's not this all or nothing, like you can't put up anything until Christmas Eve. I think that's the wrong way to look at it. Madeline, she's messing with the cord on my headset here. So Advent gives us opportunities to prepare for Christmas. And part of that is it's certainly first and foremost about preparing our hearts. But there's absolutely room in there to prepare our homes and prepare our domestic church to celebrate this season. So little things here and there like poinsettias or wreaths or, red and green plaid tablecloths or what's that called? The spicy cloves and potpourri. Is that what I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I think, there is that, that need for, that need for that preparation, but I mean, even when you consider how the church looks at penitential seasons, there's not like a ton of rubrics around decoration. It's all about internal preparation, right? I mean, it's fasting, it's almsgiving, it's doing things like that, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if we're spending more time decorating than finding ways to make sacrifices and taking time to reflect on those four last things, maybe we need to kind of reconsider our priorities.
That's a great point. I think if you're approaching the season of Advent and the preparation that it calls us to, and your house is ready for Christmas before your heart is ready for Christmas, I think maybe you've kind of maybe gone about it the wrong way. And that comes back to what we were talking about with Christmas music earlier. When I mentioned that listening to Christmas music the whole month leading up to Christmas, and then I was sick of it. It's like that it's kind of like, oh, I'm ready for Christmas right now. But there's definitely some waiting that has to take place. And it really is about preparing your heart. Yes. Yeah. It is a necessary waiting. You can't just say first Sunday of Advent, like, okay, I'm ready for Christmas to be here. It doesn't work that way.
You could almost look at the waiting as part of the fasting and penitence as well, right? Like sometimes it can be hard to wait when you're excited for decorating the house. I know, it's a beautiful thing. My wife has such a childlike excitement at decorating for Christmas, and it brings her such joy. But even having to wait on some of the decorations, I know is a sacrifice for her. And it's definitely, you could look at it as a form of penance if you do it with that intention, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah. I actually, just last weekend, I picked up the Charlie Brown Christmas album on vinyl.
Nice.
And I am so excited to play it, but it's gonna stay in shrink until Christmas Day, and then I'm gonna bust that puppy out, and I'm so stoked.
is the one you got yourself.
Yeah.
I have an anecdote related to that as well. So we were talking about celebrating Christmas and getting up to the point where it's like, okay, I'm sick of it now on December 26th, where, for me, having transitioned into celebrating Advent and then celebrating Christmas, it's like, I'm still more than happy to celebrate it. You were talking about Charlie Brown Christmas album.
Yes.
I bought a copy last year. And
on vinyl?
Yeah, on vinyl, the green vinyl. And I was really excited because I got it on sale. Why did I get it on sale? Because I got it after Christmas. Because if we're still celebrating Christmas until Candlemas, then by all means, play it on, December 31st or January 15th or, whatever day you want it to. But everybody's like getting ready for Christmas, buying all the Christmas things. Everybody's buying all the stuff like all up to December 24th. And then as soon as Christmas hits, then it goes on sale. It's like, clearance it out. We want to get rid of it. We're going to move over to Valentine's Day stuff. So you can get all your Christmas decorations on super clearance and you can still decorate because it's still Christmas until February 2nd. So that's a great way to, continue living out and celebrating this great season that we have.
Yeah. And if the person who loves decorating also really happens to be addicted to getting stuff on sale, it might be an exciting thing for her.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Or him.
Yeah, I only say her because I might know someone like that in my family. I don't know.
Yeah. The just maybe again more tangential, but do you think that it is a witness if we leave our Christmas decorations up outside till Candlemas? Do you think that it makes people question, or do they probably just assume everybody's dead inside the house because they haven't taken their decorations down? Do you remember that song?
I think it is a good witness.
Do you?
What song?
Either they decorated for Christmas early or they're all dead.
Yeah.
Is that a song?
Yes,
it is.
No, I think it is a good witness. We had friends over, this must have been 2 years ago, and it was like the very, very end of January, or maybe it was like February 1st or something. And we still had the Christmas tree up. We had them over for brunch and board games and everything. And at one point they asked about it. They're like, why is your Christmas tree still up? And so I told them, like, for us, it's still Christmas. This goes all the way up until February 2nd, and then I'm going to take it outside and burn it. And I told them the whole celebration of this whole season. And they thought it was the coolest thing. Like when you talk about, in a certain sense, arcane stuff, like arcane religious practices, ancient beliefs and all this kind of, people really latch onto that for some reason. It sounds kind of cool and kind of mystical and kind of otherworldly and supernatural. And we know, of course it is. But it takes on a new special meaning for them, when they have it explained to them in that way, rather than seeing like, oh, there's a artificial Christmas tree up at Michael's and it's made of plastic and that's all there is to it.
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, in a roundabout way, I guess we've kind of said that it's okay to decorate for Advent, and there's ways to do that. But, certainly urging against celebrating Christmas before Christmas.
Yeah, it's not ideal for living out your faith and getting the most out of Christmas, I would say. Yeah, I would also say don't be over scrupulous about it, but it's definitely a noble thing to try to live out the liturgical seasons in your domestic church.
So maybe we can go around and recommend to our listeners one practice that might help them this year enter into Advent a little bit more?
Oh, just one.
I mean, you can say a few, sure.
I was actually gonna ask you to, like, what do you do for all of Advent? Tell me the entire thing. But that's probably too long for the episode. So
Not really. I mean, we from our side, it's kind of been interesting because we now have a son, and so we're kind of looking at how do we celebrate with him, and what kind of traditions do we want to introduce for him. I mean, in terms of decorating, we do winter decorations and things like that, but we don't do Christmas decorations until Christmas. We do put up the tree prior to Christmas, but we don't put on the angel on the top until Christmas Day, or until after Christmas, Christmas midnight mass. We set up a creche, but we have the Holy Family kind of going through the house leading up to the creche, and we put, baby Jesus and whatnot in on Christmas morning. Yeah, I think, and like when it comes to Christmas music and things like that, we specifically have like Advent playlists that are just like, preparatory songs, but not, celebrating the arrival of Christ. That's a few things that we do.
I mean, we're pretty noob tier in Maestro's household. Like we're kind of still struggling through the transition from how do we do real Advent. So the decorations all over the place, and in terms of like devotional stuff, it still needs to be nailed down. We just started doing actual fasts during Advent. So that's like, we do treat Advent like it's a season where we're strictly giving something up, like Lent. But yeah, we don't have a lot of set dates for things. Just like the decorations start slowly coming up through Lent. We also I also kind of set up an Advent playlist, but that was, too extreme for the rest of the family, which is just Brooke. She really wanted to listen to Christmas music, so there's that.
Under the bus. Sorry, Brooke.
I blame it all on Chris because I was totally willing to speak in abstract, but you want to know what my family does. So I got to tell you honestly that we are not very good at liturgical living for Advent. It's something we're just kind of getting started at.
Mm-hmm. I forgot something, and this is more, I have to make mention of this because Nick is here. So something that we learned from the Carmelite sisters is they have this like statue of the baby Jesus, and what they do is they bring him out on Christmas Day or after midnight mass or something, and they all give the baby Jesus to each of the sisters, and they all venerate him. And then they put him on this like beautiful, like regal looking pillow. And so we have that in our house. So last year we brought out the baby Jesus and venerated him and then put him on this regal pillow. And yeah.
Is that the official name for it, or does it have a name?
I don't know.
Like the holy pillow or the regal pillow?
I don't know. It just it's super sweet. It's like gold, and I don't know. I don't know what you call it. It's just really nice.
The holy pillow. I like it.
The holy pillow of Antioch.
I was going to go there, but I was like, I don't know if these guys would appreciate that.
We've talked about that on previous podcasts. That show.
So what about you, man?
Yeah. I'm going to repeat a couple things because, again, I don't know how much is going to get cut for my lack of sleep coming through here and how much of it ended up freezing anyway. But so we get a live Christmas tree on Immaculate Conception, and we put it up on Gaudete. We decorate it on Christmas Eve, and then we burn it on Candlemas. Have a great big bonfire outside. So that kind of sets a whole timeline for Advent. And so that would be the biggest thing I would recommend to people is if you can, not like this is obligatory because it's not possible for everybody, but if you can, get a real Christmas tree. That completely transformed my approach to Christmas over the last few years. We had an artificial tree when I was a kid. And every year it was like, go get the box out of the basement, and it's covered in duct tape that's falling apart and it's got dust all over it. And whereas you go out to a Christmas tree farm and you pick out your tree and you cut it down and you bring it home, and this is your Christmas tree, and it's like coming up on it in the field and seeing it. It's like, this was made for this. This is its purpose. Which, okay, yeah, you could probably say the same thing about an artificial Christmas tree, like that's its purpose. But at the same time, I think that there is a profound beauty in the Christmas tree giving itself to the celebration of this season. I forget which saint said it, but there's a saint who had this great quote about candles. And how, they show us the light of Christ even at the expense of themselves being consumed in the process. I'm butchering the quote, but I think that the more we move towards, this is very difficult in our current culture because people are reacting against consumerism, right? But I think if we move towards a consumptive mentality for these things, Christmas trees, candles, holy oils, incense, these are real things that have a real purpose. And I think that can be a profound way to kind of draw us into that mystery a bit more. I feel very strongly about that particular topic. I'm actually going to write a blog about it later on in a couple weeks. Ever since I found out that the very first artificial Christmas tree was invented by a toilet brush company. You can thank the Art of Manliness for bringing that to my attention. So shout out to Brett McKay, praying for his conversion. He would make an awesome Catholic, I think. That would be the biggest thing. And then other thing that we do, we celebrate St. Nicholas on his feast day. Our daughter's 2, so she's not quite there understanding Santa or anything like that. We're not even going to do Santa with her. It's going to be St. Nicholas. And he brings gifts on his feast day. And we've talked about it, both my wife and I come from families where Santa was a big thing, and you went to see Santa at the mall or wherever, and Santa brought big gifts on Christmas. But the two of us talking about it, we felt as though in our personal experience that Santa had a tendency to overshadow Christ on Christmas. And we didn't want that to be even a possibility for our kids. Now everybody's different. Everybody has different approaches to it. I'm not here to say that, Santa is evil or anything like that. He's obviously based on St. Nicholas. And I think that there are prudent and appropriate ways to incorporate the celebration of Santa into Christmas. But in our family, we've just chosen to go about it in a different way. So St. Nicholas on his feast day. And then if you want to do, gifts from the Christ child or something on Christmas, that's another way to do that as well. And then since we're talking to a trad audience, definitely don't forget that there are Ember Days right in the middle of Advent. So perfect opportunity for more fasting and abstinence during that last week, right before Christmas time. So
Awesome.
those are the big ones for us, I think.
St. Nicholas's Day is actually a thing that we do in our house too. And I didn't think of that as an Advent thing, but it is really. We put out the kids' shoes, and we always get those chocolate gold coins, put them in the shoes, and tell them the story of how St. Nicholas would give coins to the poor children and stuff like that. So that's always a nice little practice that's really easy to do, and kids love it.
We do St. Nicholas pancakes. You could probably find a picture of them on my Instagram. I've done them 2 years in a row now. We make pancakes that are shaped like St. Nicholas's face. So you got pancakes, and then like little raspberries, I think, for his nose, and maybe blueberries for his eyes, and then a bunch of cut up strawberries to make his mitre, and then whipped cream for the beard and the cross on the mitre. And yeah, it's this whole big thing, and we absolutely love it. It's so much fun.
That's awesome.
I'm coming to your house for St. Nicholas Day. I want pancakes.
Yeah.
I actually caught some flack for it last year, because last year it fell on, was it on a Friday? I think it was on a Friday. Whatever day it was the day that the exorcists recommended like fasting and prayer for the church. Maybe it wasn't last year, but it was the year before. I don't remember. It was
it after the
within the last couple of years.
Oof.
Do you remember that though? When the exorcists were all like,
oh yeah,
you should set aside this. And it was like a big thing, and like everybody was on board. And yeah. And I was like, well, it's St. Nicholas Day, and it's my name day. And that's kind of a big deal to me and my family. I feel like we can set aside another day for fasting and prayer for this intention, and we're going to go ahead and celebrate this particular feast day. And I got some flack for it from a few people online who don't even know me. It's like, all right, you're going to criticize my devotional life.
Yeah. You're trad shaming me for following one devotion that's traditional, and not following this just willy-nilly, thing. Yeah. No, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow. Well,
trads are the worst, aren't they?
Trads are just terrible.
Yeah.
Worst. Yeah. So I think this has been a good conversation. I think for me, I've received a lot of cool ideas, and things have challenged me, and I'm like, dang, I've got to go out and get a Christmas tree now.
Yeah. Nick's not going to respect us if we put up the fake trees anymore.
I'm like
the toilet brush tree.
Trees just sitting there with dust waiting to be opened up. I'm like, oof.
We're never going to hear the end of the toilet brush jokes. It's just...
Yeah. That's all I see when I go to craft stores, it's like Michael's or Hobby Lobby or wherever, and I see all these Christmas trees up. I'm like, wow, look at all the toilet brush collection has really expanded this year.
That's great. That's great. So, Nick, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today. It has been a joy and an honor to have you on again.
Thanks so much for your invitation. I always enjoy our conversations, whether they are recorded or not.
Yes, it's actually been an honor to have you in our VIB group as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. People who are listening should request a join.
For sure. It's a good group. It's fun. So, anyways, I guess we'll sign off here. So, again, to all who are listening, thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate you coming and joining us at the podcast table. Again, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure that you visit us on Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening, and hit that subscribe button. Follow us on social media at Theology of the Buddy. And again, you can find our show notes and past episodes at theologyofthebody.com. And next week, we are back together again with Brooke and maybe Julie. And I'm not sure what we're talking about, but I'm sure it's going to be great. So make sure you're subscribed so you can hear that when it comes out. New episodes are released every Wednesday. So until then,
stay tratty.
Awesome.